Hey y'all, this is Allison hanging out in my space to craft, and I'm working on my daughter's senior album, and I'm documenting her Thanksgiving Day. So during the day, she had to do two Thanksgivings because she's dating a boy right now and was invited to their house sort of last minute. They weren't sure what's going on. So I've pulled out a stamp set that says thankful, and I had looked at a couple of different paper kits and decided on this Fall Fever, I think it's called, from Echo Park. And there's maybe a couple of cut aparts, and I'm just looking at the different papers on here to decide. This is not a pre-done paper kit like I often do, but this is a real cute sort of wood grain background pumpkin that I liked. I picked this kit because it had some gray in it, which I thought matched some of the colors, but I think I end up not using a gray paper on here. But there's this real pretty burgundy plaid, which I like, and I like this floral print, which I also end up not using. You know, things change as you go through it. I love this plaid, so I think the plaid is going to be a winner, along with that burgundy paper. And right now I'm thinking this small scale leaf, but I change my mind. I will use that green for some matting. I'm just double checking, and then I'm looking here to see if there's some titles. I thought about doing family traditions, but it ends up not. I decide it's too much white background for the paper that I'm using. So I'm going to start by separating these photos. So they're printed at 3x4. I lied, 2x3 because it's on a 4x6 paper. So they're 2x3 photos, which I'm trying to do more of. It's just easier to fit them when you have two of them. So I'm going to have to trim this pumpkin cut apart down to make it work a little bit. So I've gone off and matted the papers with a small white mat and a tiny green mat. And then I decided I want to build a little grid. I also, while I was gone off camera, fussy cut some of those pumpkins, and I gutted this paper. I did it large because I wanted just over 1/2 inch. So I ended up using this larger scale leaf paper, and I cut 3/4 of an inch off two sides so that the border is just over 1/2 inch. So it's 1/2 inch plus 1/8. And then I'm going to make a grid on this burgundy, and I picked another cut apart that had that same plaid but a slightly smaller scale. So I thought that was a nice way to bring the plaid back in to the page. And I'm really liking the look of this grid. And then just to position it. Now, there is going to be a second page to this. I'm not doing it as a 2-page layout, but it is the same day, and I want to use the same paper pack, but I don't necessarily want it to look exactly like a 2-page cohesive layout. I think I'm going to do, each one will have a different title. And but journaling will only be on the second page. So here I'm looking for if I want to use that family traditions, and I just don't think it's going to show up on that kind of busy background paper. So I'm going to use this Close to My Heart. I think it's Close to My Heart. It might be Stampin' Up. Christmas, no, Thanksgiving stamp and die set. I think it's Close to My Heart. So I'm thinking about using the stamp that says thankful, and I had some trouble getting this to stamp properly for some reason. I wanted to make sure there, I was just making sure that I had enough space around it for the die. And I'm going to stamp using my VersaFine Clair. It's a dark brown, and putting it on this yellow so that it will show up. And you see how in the middle there it didn't stamp? And I'm not sure why. I double checked that I was on the right direction for my for this type of stamp, you know, that the cover was the right direction. And I still had a little tiny bit that didn't fill in, so I just filled it in with a dark brown pen later. But I'm going to go off and die cut this, and that is going to be my title. I'm going to be pretty happy with that. I will bring out my stamp platform again toward the end when I decide to add something else from this stamp set. So I've gone off to die cut that. I did splice that out a little bit. And I'm happy with the way that shows up on the page. That's where I just colored in that little spot that was a little sketchy. Then I have these pumpkins. I'm going to try and, I do end up using them. And I really do essentially two embellishment areas. And then I embellish on those cut aparts a little bit. I was looking for some borders. This is from a different fall themed sticker book that I have, and I like that yellow because it pulls out a very similar yellow to the background of that thankful, the shadow of it. It's not exactly the same, but it's really, really close. I do ink it. I've inked everything. I inked the mats for the photos and the cut aparts. And now I'm ready to embellish. So that part, this part came together really pretty quickly. And then I just need to figure out embellishments for the page. I liked this little set of pumpkins. But I definitely wanted a few florals on there because there are florals in the photos. Since it's just the three of us, we used to take a cruise every Thanksgiving, but since COVID, we haven't really done that. And not because of COVID now, but we've just had been doing other vacations and cruises, so we haven't done one over Thanksgiving. And so we go down to a hotel 30 or so miles from us, and they have a big, nice buffet. So we enjoy that. It was a little more rushed this time because she had been invited to her friend's house for their Thanksgiving meal, so she didn't get to quite eat as much as she normally would at our Thanksgiving meal, but that's okay. We still enjoyed it. So I'm just looking through this sticker book for some things, still trying to make it feel cohesive, even though things are coming from a couple of different sticker books. And I have still lots of paper in this paper kit, so I won't have trouble using up more stickers. Just pulling some small leaves to help with the embellishment clusters. And then decide to pop up the grid, and I'll pop up this title also because I didn't want it really to sit behind the grid, so I felt I needed to pop it up. And I thought that was a nice addition to that. It's a little enamel pitcher with flowers in it. And then this is a little fussy to pop up, so I used a lot of little circular elements and the offcuts from those circular pop dots. That's what I used to call them anyway. So ready to commit to this. Once it's down with this Scotch foam adhesive, it's not coming back up. So I'm adding a few little wordy bits to the photos, but not doing a whole lot else. I'm trying not to make them full embellishment clusters on the grid itself. But these little pumpkins have the same plaid as the leaves in the paper, so they don't show up great, and that's why I'm trying to build out a little bit bigger clusters there with some leaves and other things. And trying to give some of the things some dimension. All right, so I think this is real close to finished. And I'm just going to look for, I think oh, this is where I decide it needs something else. Those embellishment clusters are not standing out. So I pull off a little fox and a little squirrel from this stamp set, and I'm going to stamp it onto some scraps of paper. So I'm going to go into my scraps, and I find a little piece of kind of a lightish brown or cement color and an orange. So I like the orange for the fox, and it's a little distressed looking, and this brownish taupe color, if you will. I thought about using that for the fox, but it was a little too green. Not for the fox, for the squirrel, but I thought it was a little too green. And I'm just going to do simple stamping with this because I'm not stamping it onto white, so I'm not coloring it in. I just stamp it, and then and then ink blend the edges a little bit to give them a little dimension. And that's all I really do. And this is the same ink that I used for the title. And I think I stamped them twice. Just to make sure I get a good solid image there. Sorry about that. My dogs are getting a little excited outside. So just cleaning off those stamps so I'm not left with a mess after I finish the page. I'm really happy with this stamp set. I think it's pretty darn cute, and I will try and use it on the page next door as well, just to help tie those pages together again. I'm not sure which animals I'll put on there, but there's a couple to choose from. So here they are. I've just inked the edges to give them some dimension. And now I'm going to look for some enamel dots that match. I don't have the enamel dots that go with this collection, so I'm going to have to scavenge for some appropriate ones. And the one set of fall enamel dots that I had are just about used up and gone. But I do have these from Felicity Jane that are sort of fall colors. So I'm going to use the hearts from this as a starting point. And there's a yellow on here that is about the same tone. And now we're ready for some close-ups, I think. So please give this video a thumbs up. If you aren't subscribed, please subscribe. I'm getting really close to 500 subscribers. I'd really love to hit that milestone. So thank you so much for coming and checking out my Space to Craft, and we'll see you next time.